This is a fabulous intermediate level piece that my students love playing. I highly recommend learning it because it will challenge you with storytelling, pedaling, and bringing out the melody. And it sounds much more difficult than it is, so it's a good one to impress people. I'm going to do a complete tutorial on this piece and help you with the fine details that make it exciting and sound like a storm. Before we get started, I want to remind you to use a good addition when learning this piece and any other piece so that you get tasteful pedal suggestions, articulations, and fingering. I hope that you'll grab our free PDF that we've created for you, and it lists our favorite classical piano music additions. I've linked that in the description below. The first thing I want to talk about is the accent markings in this piece. I've looked at various editions, and some editions have accents and tenutos, and other editions have martellato markings, but it's very consistent across editions to see these sforzando markings. So I feel like Burgmuller wanted us to really emphasize these notes where the sforzandos are. I like to think of them as the thunder and the lightning in this piece, and how loud I play the sforzando notes depends on the level of the dynamics around the sforzando. So at the beginning, this is a pianissimo marking, and so my sforzando isn't going to be quite as loud as later on in the piece where the dynamics is fortissimo. So I recommend that you go through your music and highlight all the accents and sforzandos so you're really aware of them. This piece is marked allegro, so I recommend aiming for a metronome speed of 60 for half notes, so 2 beats per measure. We want to eventually feel this piece in 2 pulses because of the 4/4 time signature. You could play this faster, but I noticed that my students are not able to play it clean and get every detail when they try to play it faster. So this is a sample of 60. When you first start learning this piece and you're thinking about the rhythm, you could count for 16th notes because there are 16th notes through most of the piece. So counting for 16th notes would be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. But it's a little difficult to count for 16th notes on the last 6 bars because it's mostly 8th notes here, but you could do it. The other option would be to count for 8th notes through the whole piece. I always tell my students to count consistently through the whole piece. So if you choose 16th notes, count the whole piece for 16th notes so that your rhythm stays steady and your tempo stays steady. So counting for 8th notes is easy here. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... But it's a little awkward at the beginning. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... So you'll have to choose which way you prefer. Once you can understand the rhythm and count, I recommend switching over to the metronome and have the metronome ticking for quarter notes. So you would get 4 beats per measure, and a good starting speed is 60. So 4 beats per measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you would just gradually work up the metronome speed to your goal speed of 120 and keep it ticking for 4 beats per measure. And then you would want to eventually move the metronome to half notes. So you'd be getting 2 beats per measure. So you'd just go back to 60, which is half of 120, and you would be getting 2 ticks per measure. So that's where you want to eventually end up. Of course, it's important to practice without the metronome sometimes and work on expressive playing and phrasing and tempo changes. Let's talk about some of the fine details in this first section. So as far as pedaling goes, I recommend changing on every left-hand note so that we have clarity with the right-hand 16th notes. So change, 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 change. On the first and second ending, I recommend coming off the pedal completely on count 4. So you're going to change, off, and then on the second ending, change, off. And that allows us to really hear the right hand 16th notes. And there's a rest in the left hand as well. So coming off the pedal helps us to acknowledge that rest. So off. And we've talked about the sforzandos, so make sure you've got your sforzandos and accents marked. So we want to really emphasize these sforzandos and pay close attention to those. Notice that the left hand also has some accents here. So it's important to bring out the left hand notes, but I notice that a lot of students cover up the right hand notes when they're trying to bring out those left hand notes. So be careful that we can still hear a right hand when you're accenting the left hand. So. And notice there's a sforzando here in the left hand, and then there's an accent and a right hand half note that should be held through. So. For this next section, I recommend changing the pedal on beats 1 and 3. If you change more than that, it sounds a little bit choppy. So you would do change, 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 change. And then when you get to here, come off for the staccatos. So you go down, up, down, up, down, and then off for the rest. And then I would go back to changing on all of the beats here. Change, change. And the accents and sforzandos, it's a little difficult in this section because there's a lot of accents. I like to focus on my left hand and doing a crescendo to the sforzando. The right hand, it's important to get those accents too, but try to focus on the left hand crescendoing to the sforzando. So. And then this is the loudest part of the piece, so make sure you're playing very heavy, as loud as you can play, especially on the sforzando here. And it's tough to get back down in position here on time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure you're bringing out the top notes of these chords here. So the melody is. So make sure you're paying attention to that and bringing those notes out. My edition has the retards in different places. I like the retard here, and then back to odd tempo. I like that better than this copy that you're seeing. Here at the key change, there's obviously a mood change, and the storm sounds like it's lifting and the sun is coming out. So I wouldn't play the sforzando notes as heavy as the rest of the piece. As far as pedaling goes, I would change here on every chord. Change, 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 change. Then here, be careful that you're holding the half note through. And on the chords, make sure you're bringing out the top note melody of the chords. The melody is. So don't let that left hand overpower the chords. Make sure the chords are really singing out and we're hearing the top notes of the chords. Then expressive. Then the pedaling here, I would go down with your pedal on the repeated note, and then off, then down, off. So using just a little bit of pedal on those repeated notes smooths that part out. So I wouldn't use pedal on this part. Then down, up, and then touch the pedal to connect to there, then no pedal, then touch, off, touch, and hold, and off. So it kind of sounds like the storm is lifting. It's almost over. And then suddenly there's some light sprinkling rain here. And it's going to come to an end here. And the sun is coming out. And the storm is over. I hope you'll watch my full performance of this piece next. Please let us know in the comments what videos we can make to help you on your piano journey. Thanks for being here.